and welcome back to Rage Bait, where living is a privilege. I am your host, Commander After 40, with my co-host, Sensei from Popcorn and Pork Rind YouTube channel. Welcome back, Sensei.
Thank you for having me. Fun times.
So, fun times. A lot of positive reviews from our last interaction,
Well, that's good.
a lot of chemistry, a lot of back and forth hilarity. A lot of people like that.
It's just us being natural. This is who we are.
Exactly.
I was slightly reserved the last time. I'm not sure how it'll be this time just because of the most recent events that have happened recently. Oh boy. Doozies.
Yeah, a lot has happened.
Yeah.
Right now it is September 12th, 2025, and we're talking about the events that happened 2 days ago. And the
Yeah.
day before that was no one barely talked about it, and a lot of people thought that the flags were brought to half mast because of it. But yesterday was 9/11.
Correct. You know what? Fun little story time. So, coming back from my wife's job, and I'm literally sitting there because obviously we know that Charlie Kirk had been, I'm just going to call it what it is, assassinated. And also the Colorado school shooting. So, of course, the president had came out and spoke about Charlie Kirk and praising him. And I'm looking at all, because mind you, I live in deep South Texas, and there's flags everywhere. And they were at half, and I was like, okay, this feels a little off. Like, why is it at half? But then she had mentioned that, hey, 9/11. And that threw me off that I totally forgot about 9/11 just because of all the craziness that's been happening.
Right? I mean, like I honestly thought it was half mast because of the shootings,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought that the president did declare that it would be half mast because of the shootings. But again, it was really because of 9/11. And
Yeah.
I swear to you, everywhere in the media, they've all forgot.
It got
Like
overlooked.
everyone's still talking about the shooting.
And just imagine that 9/11, because I'm not sure where you were at, but I was working patrol. I don't know if people knew that, but
Mhm.
I lived in the Bay Area and I was working patrol at the time. And I had woken up because I got off of work about maybe three something in the morning. And I was living with my uncle. And I wake up and the first airplane had already hit the tower. And I'm looking at him and
Mhm.
I'm looking at the TV. I'm still kind of dazed because I just woke up. And then I witnessed the second airplane hit the tower. My uncle turns to me and says, "We're at war." And my heart dropped, like, what is really happening? I thought it was like a movie or something. So I ended up
Mhm.
getting called into work early just to be briefed because at that point they were talking about the Bay Bridge, and the Golden Gate Bridge was supposed to be like the next target. And they already had reserve on the bridge. So I'm slightly
Right.
freaking out going into work, and they just said, keep your eyes peeled, radio in if anything is kind of off because of terrorist attacks.
Mhm.
So
Definitely.
yeah, and then of course watching the whole shock and awe and that stuff happening when we invaded Iraq and Iran. I feel old now talking about this.
Well, I was still in high school when it happened.
Whew. Yeah, I was out. I was
So
I was 1,800 miles away.
what was happening on my day, at least the bits I can remember, because I didn't exactly have the best childhood, so a lot of my childhood was erased.
Mm,
But the bits I do remember from that day in particular was I was getting ready for band practice. I was part of the school band and we had early morning practice every day. So it was like six or yeah, it was around 6 a.m. and the TV was on and my parents at the time they were just all in shock and I was like what, and I looked over at the TV and they were replaying the first plane hitting the tower,
mhm.
and I was just like what is this, a new Bruce Willis movie? I mean,
A lot of
because they
people
had
thought
they
they lie. A lot of
yeah,
people thought it was literally an action movie happening.
exactly, it was just like it was in poor taste. I thought, oh okay, but then again they blew up the White House in the fifth movie of, I think it was Live Free and Die Hard.
Hmm.
I was thinking, oh, bad taste. And that's when the second plane hit. And I was like, oh, this is real.
Yeah. And it's amazing that we're living in this time because obviously, going to school and they're talking about Pearl Harbor. Mind you, here's the crazy part about Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor happened a week before my mother was born, and my father literally went into the military in November. I think a year before, either a year before, or I do believe actually he went in 42. So he went in November, right after Pearl Harbor. Or
That's
was it?
crazy.
Let me see. Pearl Harbor got hit October. So yeah, he went in November, and then October, Pearl Harbor was hit, if memory serves me correct. I guess we could Google it, but old man brain. But yeah, he was in World War II. He's a World War II veteran, and it's funny because all of the things that have been happening, especially recently with all the mass shootings, school shootings, and because we're talking about guns and what happened. My father was an expert marksman, expert, because there's 3 levels. He was expert in the Thompson machine gun. I do believe it's a Thompson. And he was marksman with the rifle. And a lot of people have come out talking specifically about Charlie Kirk, about, bullet drop and what type of weapon it was used. And it was a sniper, a well-trained sniper, or it was some hunter, right? And I was talking to somebody about using iron sights back then versus having scopes and optics now on your weapons. And I said, we don't know the facts, even as of right now, 9/12. We specifically don't know the facts of why, but also to say that nobody couldn't go out there and make that shot, to me, is kind of ludicrous, because there are optics and things that I'm saying that are being used versus iron sights back in the day. But good
So
old
you think
guns.
that it is possible that you think then it is possible that perhaps not necessarily a complete amateur, but somebody of a lower grade could have made that shot.
So first, I'm going to base it on the fact of what I've seen other people mentioning, specifically
Mhm.
either active duty or ex-military, and snipers have come out and we're talking about ballistics and whether you're aiming center mass or were they aiming for the neck, versus people that aren't experts talking about, oh, it was a precision shot. I personally feel
Mhm.
that, based off of what I've gathered from other people, I personally feel that this person was not trained. I don't think they were trained.
Mm.
I think that they were aiming for a specific shot and they ended up hitting him in the neck. Now, mind you, what I'm saying is speculation. I'm not an expert, but a lot of people could argue that no, it was done on purpose. And a lot of people have come out
Mhm.
that are hunters and are snipers have said you're going to be aiming center mass. You're not going to be aiming for that spot. So again,
Right.
we're just unsure of the fact of why, and was that
Mhm.
where they were aiming specific, because that's about just a
Right.
little over 200 yards away, and this is a football and a half or 2 football fields away on a rooftop shooting at an angle.
Mhm.
So yeah, the whole gun violence thing, I have had this discussion a lot, and it's gotten to the point, it's gotten to the point where I've changed my mind, because a lot of people argue about criminals don't care about the law and that they're going to go get these guns. But the reason why my mind has changed is because you know where the gun shop is. You can Google it and walk in and buy a
Mhm.
weapon versus finding somebody on the street. Everybody doesn't know everyone that has illegal guns to go and buy. So you're making it difficult for that person to obtain the weapon. So,
Right.
and that kind of changed
Well,
my thinking.
I had a boyfriend once that was a big gun enthusiast, and in the Northwest, we have a gun show every year, and he would always, and mind you, this was back in the thousands, not in the tens.
Mhm.
So back in like 1999, 2000, he was able to go to these gun shows and he would literally trade some old guns for some unmarked, unserialized guns, and I don't think it has changed that much in the
Mhm.
last 20 years.
I'm not out there buying guns off the street, so I don't know. So, obviously, people do know that I have weapons. I have a high caliber rifle. I do have a 9 millimeter, which is a Glock 19, and I've shot them. I've shot all of them multiple times. And my smallest caliber, which is a rifle, which is a 22 LR, it shoots a 22 LR, which is a small caliber.
Hmm.
And even with that, people have made the comparison of a high powered rifle versus a 22. And basically, if you're shooting, let's say a person, or matter of fact, not even a person, but like an animal, that 22 will
Right.
ricochet off of bone and just tear up the insides. So
Mm.
to make the comparison of what's more lethal, you might have a higher chance of survival being hit with a lower caliber. But again, it's a bullet. It's being shot out of a gun versus like a
Hmm.
223 or a 5.56 NATO, which is fairly large bullet. or a 30-06, which apparently that's what was used to shoot Charlie Kirk, was a bolt action 30-06. But again, all of this is speculation because this is what, when it comes to gun reform and gun laws and people wanting less gun laws and it's infringing on your Second Amendment right, I strongly believe now where I'm at, even as a 2A advocate, is that more things need to be implemented when it comes to doing better background checks or having to actually go and show that you know how to shoot in a gun registry and so on and so forth. Now, mind you, a lot of people are going to probably, criticize me for saying that because it's infringing on your Second Amendment right. But I also feel that if you have gone through the things to saying that you're a safe person to have this, well, then it potentially could lessen, I'm not saying obliterate, but lessen the amount of people going out there attaining weapons legally and then going and committing atrocities, because you want to chip away at it. And I don't think you can have a blanket statement or a blanket fix to just implement more laws, or it depends on what type of law you're implementing. And each state is different. Just like a lot of people think in Texas that you can just walk into the gun shop and walk out. Now, I'm going to speak from my personal experience. I have 3 guns. I've gone to the gun shop, 3 different shops, 3 different times. First time I went, I had to wait a week. Second time I went, I was able to walk out same day. And this was a handgun. Because mind you have to be 21 to buy a handgun here and 18 to buy a rifle. Then the third time that I went, which was another rifle, I had to wait. So I've never had a consistent having to wait time or interaction with 3 different gun shops in Texas. So to me, that's kind of a problem. Like every time I go into the gun shop, I should have the same reaction or interaction where I either will have to wait every time or don't have to wait.
Yeah. I was actually looking at the gun laws in Washington state, and according to everytownresearch.org, apparently Washington state is one of the top 10 states with the strongest gun laws.
California, I do believe, is number one.
That I do not know. I should check that out.
Yeah, I think.
But for instance, they have background checks and purchase permits. They have concealed carry permits. You have to have that. There's a no shoot first law.
No shoot first. What's that?
I think it has something to do with. Let me check it here. It's not giving me. A lot of places don't have it though. Apparently, Alabama doesn't have no shoot first law. What about you? Yep. In Texas, you guys don't have it either.
Yeah, I've never even heard of the no shoot law.
Yeah, it says 21 states have rejected this policy.
So what exactly is the no shoot law? Are you looking at it? Matter of fact.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Okay, here we go. Looking it up. According to AI, the no shoot first law is a policy, usually a provision in state law, that maintains the duty to retreat, requiring individuals to avoid using deadly force if a safe opportunity to escape a threat exists. In contrast, shoot first or stand your ground laws remove this duty to retreat, allowing people to use deadly force without first attempting a de-escalation or withdraw from the dangerous situation. Apparently, a good source for finding that, besides just AI, suggests the BBC's What Stand Your Ground Laws in which states have it, based on the shooting that happened to that one boy. You remember that one? It was the boy knocked on the door of an old man, and the old man was some kind of racist, and he shot him point blank, and he quoted stand your ground laws because he felt threatened, even though the kid literally saw the gun, turned around and ran, and he shot him in the back. Yeah. 16-year-old Ralph Yarl, Y-A-R-L. After ringing a doorbell of the wrong home, 20-year-old Kayleen Gross died after being shot upon entering the wrong driveway. The shooting has prompt questions about persons' rights to protect themselves and their property in the U.S. Shoot first, ask questions later. Versions of stand your ground laws are in effect in at least 28 states, including Missouri, where Ralph was shot. Nope, Texas stand your ground too. So yeah. So the shoot first law basically means you don't stand your ground. If the perpetrator can get away safely, you're not supposed to shoot them, from what I understand. This comes from the BBC. I will make sure to make a link to the in the descriptions. Okay, so there's that.
Wow, this is an issue.
It's been an issue.
Yeah.
Why is it being an issue?
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been a person that actually has gone through some gun violence myself, and I just look at it like this: is I've watched a lot of people talk about if they had to give up their guns to save their children, would they? And they said, well, why can't I have my children and my guns also? And yeah, and I feel like this is that if I can come to a point in life where I don't need these guns, I don't need them. And my child is always going to be number one, first and foremost. Fuck the Second
Right.
Amendment right if it boils down to me having to choose between my Second Amendment right or my child.
Well, the original Second Amendment, or yeah, the in the Bill of Rights, was actually addressing a militia, that you had the right to form militias and have arms. It
Yeah,
really wasn't really meant for just civilians. It was meant for organized groups to be able to bear arms and form militias, I think.
yeah.
And again, I will link that into my description. You can look it up at the archives.gov, finding docs, Bill of Rights, transcripts.
I think I want to revisit the fact of when it comes to gun violence, people are picking and choosing what they find unacceptable, right? Because a lot of people were hitting me up yesterday, and I'm going to specifically talk about Magic the Gathering community. Mind you, I'm not on TikTok like that anymore because I found a lot of people just to be performative. But apparently, a lot of
Right.
people have been talking about it in their group chats or making posts. And if you go out there talking about Charlie Kirk and you say, hey, political violence is unacceptable, you will be demonized. If you are happy about what happened to Charlie Kirk, you will be demonized. There is no win when it comes to talking about Charlie Kirk and what happened, and people can throw facts out there all day, but it makes them feel uncomfortable because it doesn't align with their feelings, especially when it comes to gun control. We could literally take the words that Charlie Kirk said and repeat them, and people will still be upset at you for repeating those words because I've seen
Well,
it.
yeah, there is a movement right now of people literally, I'm going to call it whitewashing, because
Mm-hmm.
that seems to be the most popular way of putting it, because everyone knows what you mean by whitewashing. They're whitewashing who Charlie was. And don't get me wrong, I'm of the opinion that you can only see a certain facet of a person. And a lot of people saw the worst of him.
Mm-hmm.
And there's plenty of recordings of him being his worst. But
Yeah.
we have to also consider the fact that he was a friend and a family man, and he did do what any normal American who hates people does, and that is complain and debate about why he hates those people.
Mm-hmm. I, I've had this conversation with a few people extensively for hours, and I've come to the
Mhm.
conclusion of words are power. And we grew up in a time where they said sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me. But yet we are living in a time where if you say certain words, you will be held, I guess, accountable to what you say, especially in this climate.
Right.
And I said what
Mhm.
I don't like because I am a person that the things that I say and the things that I did online is me in real life. And I think a lot of people are performative and they'll just get on the internet, say whatever comes to their brain, and then don't go out there and stand on it. If I said that I was going to go out there and cause harm, I'm going to go out there and cause harm. If I'm going to go out there and show love and affection and try to help communities, I'm going to do it. I'm not just going to get online and just say these things. But I feel like a lot of people, specifically in the MTG community, outside of talking about Magic the Gathering, that they're performative. A lot of them are. They just complain on the internet and then just go about their business off of the internet. I don't see any of them doing anything other than just bitching, moaning, and complaining. Now, mind you, there are some people out there that are trying to help get cards in people's hands. But when they start talking about something outside of this nerd thing, they lose it.
Mhm.
They lose the plot.
Right. Well, unfortunately, and it's true for every American, I've been touched by gun violence. My cousin, when I was, I think, around 8 years old, wasn't mentally stable. And my aunt had told my uncle at the time to get rid of his guns because my cousin wasn't stable. And he wouldn't. Mind you, he was a stepdad and he was a piece of trash. But the point is that she got a hold of it and that was the end of it. So in our family, with that kind of history, we are very weary of guns because that was the first known incident in our family of that kind of violence, self-inflicted.
Yeah.
And so for me, I had this very genuine respect and fear of weapons, especially guns.
Mm.
But the thing is that I also understand that this is America and America loves their guns.
Yeah. Bumper stickers,
And
t-shirts, and hats.
exactly, if it's not a sex toy, it probably is somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that because it's such an ingrained part of our culture, it is who we are as Americans. It's our guns. I do believe that we're just going about it completely wrong. When it comes to like another very dangerous weapon that no one ever really talks about, vehicles. Cars cause the majority of deaths, especially when you're intoxicated. And no one ever really talks about it because it's so ingrained in being an automobile owner. Eventually, you're going to get into an accident. That's why we have insurance. That's why we have driver permits. That's why we have tests. That's why we get authorized. And yet we feel like that doing that to guns is not necessary. And I think that's where the disconnect comes from. It's like if we put the same amount of effort into learning guns, it's suddenly a breach of our Second Amendment when we're not even a part of a militia.
I've been preaching this to people in and out. I said, whether you have a gun or not, you should learn all about guns because you live in a world where other people have them.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And somebody else mentioned about cars. What was a car made for? For travel. What was a gun made for?
It was made for a weapon.
Yeah. You know, I didn't get guns to make soup. I got them to shoot motherfuckers.
Exactly. I mean, guns are not made to put holes in the ground so you can plant your seed.
Exactly.
They aren't made to go fishing, even though I've seen them be used for both. They're not made for that.
Let's be real. Let's be real. Like people will say, well, you know, is it a toy? No, it's not. You know, you don't take toys to war. So
no, you don't.
But when it comes to a vehicle, yeah, you literally have to be a certain age to drive. You have to go through the training. You have to do tests. And matter of fact, it's funny because the Second Amendment is a right, but you don't have the right to drive a vehicle. It's a privilege.
That's true. It's a privilege.
Yep. So.
And yeah, I was looking up the militia groups, or they call it milita groups.
Mm-hmm.
I'm calling militia, but they're MILITIA. And it's a private, unauthorized paramilitary group of civilians that trains in combat and often opposes government authority, with members often preparing for perceived threats to their communities and constitutional rights.
Interesting.
Or it refers to a government-controlled reserve force. It's not primarily denoted these private, often anti-government armed group. So the whole Second Amendment in and of itself is meant for people who are planning on defending their rights.
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose of having guns, is to defend your right. And the argument also is that I've been hearing circulating is the fact that a lot of these supposed shootings, whether or not premeditated or not, are giving ammunition to the government to take our guns away so they can fully exercise their authoritarian behavior. And that's the only reason why they haven't really been able to do so, because we still have our guns and we're not parting with them.
I want to mention Nepal. Nepal.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Nepal has gone full tilt. But here's the funny part is Nepal did that without guns.
It's true. It was because of guns that they went all out in the first place.
A lot of people were trying to spin it, saying that it was because the social media blackout. I mean, I haven't looked all that deep into what happened in Nepal. I've just seen, you know, the buildings burning and everything else. And I've seen a few people using guns that they got from, I guess, the military and the government. But yeah, they went out there and did it. And I think that's my issue with America is if Americans are this fed up and they're talking about violence is not the answer. I've never seen a war won with hugs and kisses. So
not yet.
Yeah. And people saying that violence is not the answer. It's just, it's another tool, because diplomacy, if you keep giving diplomacy, and you keep speaking these things and you're not getting the result that you want, what happens at that point?
Right.
You just keep hitting it with the same thing, because that's crazy. That's lunacy. Right. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome.
Right.
You have to
I think
go
it
and
was
do something
Malcolm X who supported the idea of you have to step forward and, you know, bear arms. You have to be the action that you need to be.
Yeah.
I don't think he was very much a hugs and kisses. I think he was very much fire with fire kind of scenario.
Malcolm X was definitely all that. I had mentioned
and he had every right to.
Yeah. I had mentioned in this other video on my channel, I had said that I feel that a lot of people are afraid to go and die for what they believe in. And I truly believe that
Oh
because
yeah.
so many people online will talk about, oh, it's war. And why are you on the internet talking about it's war? Why don't you go out there and start doing things that is going to start this war, right? Otherwise, you're just talking. Just go be about some
Right.
type of action. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it's all about. And if I sat here talking with you right now about anything
Mm-hmm.
that comes out of my mouth, I'm going to do the same thing in real
Right.
life because I will say
Mm-hmm.
this. I do have fear of certain things, but that fear is not going to stop me from going and backing up the things that I said,
Right.
because I would expect I'm going to get some type of opposition. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking wild and crazy, talking about shooting people, well, then maybe I should not just say them. I should go out there and put myself in that position to have that happen because somebody else is going to see it and they're going to be like, whoa, you might have to move differently at that point because look at the reaction from what I did.
Well, that's the strangest thing of all, really, because we had someone do an action, right? I'm sure plenty of people have thought and said, "Oh, we want." And that is the conclusion of part one of Rage Debate, where living is a privilege. Episode: Men love their guns more than women. If you like what you're hearing, please take a moment to subscribe and hit that notification button so you can be alerted to any upcoming Rage Debate content. Also, leave a comment. Tell me, what would you like to hear next? Now, part two of Rage Bait, where living is a privilege. And welcome.
Nice. I'm leaving that. I'm still recording. I don't care. That was on cue. Nice. Welcome back to the shenanigans
Okay.
bullshit.
Where we talk about everything that's fucking going on.
Oh my
Where the
gosh.
devil's even saying, "What the fuck?
Yes.
I didn't
Yeah.
plan this. What the hell?
Oh man, that's why it's raw and
What
cut.
my space?"
Well, slightly cut because we had some issues, and this is technically the second part, but it's going to be woven in to just be one cohesive audio. So
Right.
yeah,
Okay, so we'll just keep going.
yeah.
All right, so I not necessarily remember exactly where I stopped or where I got cut off. I think I was talking about how we live in a culture of guns and we don't treat our guns with the respect they deserve because they're murdering weapons. They're tools to kill, and we're not treating them like tools to kill. We're treating them like everyday objects, like phones.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny because yeah, we get in vehicles and we use them every day to go grocery shopping, go to work, go to school, but we're not using guns necessarily every day, all day, and constantly. So, obviously,
Especially for the
I was going to say, especially I'm pro 2A, but I'm also at the point in my life where if I absolutely do not need them, well, then I won't have them. And I strongly
Right.
believe that all these laws need to be revisited and they need to be implemented because what's the use of a law if they're not being utilized?
right, or they at least need to be heavily updated. I
Yeah.
mean, because I'm not saying that firearms didn't exist during the times of our forefathers. It's just that they were very limited in their ability. Like you had to sit there and load your gun just to put a barrel and a bullet into it.
hmm
And
Well,
nowadays, you could just literally go click, and you're good to go. So there's a lot that needs to be changed.
I believe also that at that time, everybody was on the same playing field, and I think that's the idea and the view of why we have semi-automatic weapons. But once you look at it, is the military has fully auto, and that's why I kind of get confused of why they push the assault rifle, the wording and the verbiage so hard, being that the general public doesn't have access to a fully automatic anything unless you go and spend at least $20,000. I mean, that's a give or a take on a fully auto, but it has to be produced before the ban. So nobody's producing a new fully automatic weapon, and it's very expensive to get one unless you get like a auto sear or they call them Glock switches and stuff like that, where you're modifying the gun. So depending on the state that you live in, it could be looked at as being illegal. And of course, what happened in Vegas, I
Well,
believe, with the bump stock.
mhm.
So I don't know if you know what a bump stock is.
Nope. I don't know what a bump stock is. I'm very illiterate when it comes to guns.
Mm. Bump stock is the stock of the gun, and basically it moves the gun back and forth itself, and you hold down the
Hmm.
trigger. So it's not necessarily you pulling the trigger multiple times, the gun is moving back and forth multiple times, where it's emulating like it's shooting at a higher rate. And it seems that you are muted now. Nice. I just saw the notification pop up. It says Rage Bait muted. But while you figure that out, I will continue to fill the space and just talk about the fact of watching people online having debates. Hey, you're back. Having debates about, not implementing more gun laws, or it's infringing on your Second Amendment right, and so on and so forth. And I think people need to have a platform where we can start talking about it to move forward into what should be done instead of arguing about it, because there's a lot of arguing based off of people's feelings instead of trying to, link up with somebody just like me and you were talking right now of what we can do moving forward to stop
Hmm.
the mass shootings and all these other things. I think a lot of people just want to ignore statistics also, because right now what's happening in the real
Oh
world,
yeah, totally.
yeah, is where they want to place the blame specifically on a certain demographic. When you look at it, is everybody that is an American citizen has a Second Amendment right, whether you utilize it or not. I don't believe that we
Hmm.
should be looking at it that way per se, but you have to look at the numbers also. Is where's the issue? Because a lot of the times they'll say, oh, mental health, depending on the demographic, is either they need thoughts and prayers or it's mental health.
Hmm. And the
So,
thing is the people who are not utilizing the statistics are up in their emotions. They don't want to look at the facts. And the facts are that everyone, like you said, has the right to bear arms. And having laws isn't to negate that ability, it's actually to strengthen that ability. So if we had the proper laws that we're supposed to, everyone could have a gun safely in their house without the fear of the government taking it, because
mm-hmm,
the laws are to protect our already given rights.
yeah,
And I think it was best quoted in Credibles too, because they were dealing with the discrimination of their powers and how they wanted to have the ability to use their powers for good. But the government had issued that no person who had a superpower was allowed to use it for good or ill. And of course, the people who were ill, they would use them anyway, because hell, it's like, I have the right to have this, so you can just pop up.
mm-hmm,
But what Eleanor said is that if the laws are unfair, we have laws to change them. Otherwise, it's chaos. And right now, we are in chaos because people are ignoring the laws and are refusing to use the laws that utilize them to change them. So we're in chaos.
a lot of
And
the
the people that want
times.
us in chaos are perfectly happy with that. They're like, yep, blame them over there, ignore us, blame
Mm-hmm.
them. We're just going to use the laws to our advantage while you ignore us.
So, so some people had griped about the fact of having a waiting time, and what I've seen also is that people make these decisions whether they're going to go out and do some type of atrocity, where they'll go in and it's pretty much an impulse buy, and then they go and carry out the thing.
Mhm.
So when you have a waiting
Right.
time, that might give that person the opportunity to sit there and rethink what they're about to do also. So that's one part, like I said before, there is no blanket fix. There's multiple things that are going to help
Mhm.
wean or totally annihilate the issue that we're having, because this is, an American problem. And a lot of people want
It is
to,
an American problem.
mm-hmm, and a lot of people want to compare it
This is
to other countries. And I don't think that we can necessarily compare it to other countries, because other countries' demographic is completely different than America's. So I'm not saying that you can't use them as a stepping stone, but I don't think you can implement the same thing here, like let's say like a Japan or a Britain.
Well, even in Japan and in Britain, they allow their citizens guns. It's just that their laws restrict their ability to obtain a gun very severely. So if you really, really, really wanted a gun in your house, you had to jump through a dozen hoops and prove to the government that you weren't a threat before you could even have one.
Mm-hmm.
And then to get the ammo is just another hard stepping stone to try to get to, because
Yeah.
you have to prove that you're not going to be doing something harmful when you're getting the ammunition. And I think it's in Japan, the only citizens that have the rights to have guns are those who are hunting, and they have to prove that they're either hunting or doing it for a sport before they're even allowed to have the weapon.
Interesting.
Don't
So,
quote me on that. That's something
yeah.
you should look up on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not speaking facts. We're only, trying to figure out what we can do as a society and Americans moving forward with this issue
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of things have happened since we had last talked in the media,
Mm-hmm.
and it was all revolving around guns. And again, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people feel that we shouldn't have them at all versus people trying to hold on to them and glorifying them because, I've seen people with AR's imprints on their hats and tattoos and bumper stickers and all
Mm-hmm.
this other stuff, but they don't have those things when it comes to, the opposite of that, where there's solidarity and safety and all those other things. Because I can tell you now, none of those people that have those things are like competition shooters. They're just like,
Right.
I love this thing so much, I'm gonna go get a bumper sticker and a tattoo of it. So
Mm-hmm.
necessarily, it is literally pointing out the cause and effect of Americans glorifying guns, glorifying
Right.
instead of like you're saying, like in a Japan where they use it as a tool to go and hunt. So yet again, crazy times
And
that we live
prove to
in.
their, yeah, and they prove again, they have to prove that they're not getting these weapons to do something like overthrow the government.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. That.
I mean, there's a lot to it. And and this is the thing a lot of people aren't realizing, and I really want people to take more time to look at how other people deal. When I say other people, I mean other countries deal with the situations that they're dealing with when it comes to their corrupt governments or having people being unalived by weapons. It's basically they found ways around changing their world without having to deal with the violent atrocities that their governments enforced. And of
Yeah.
course, I am talking about Nepal.
Mm-hmm.
Nepal is like almost a blueprint of what people should be doing in order to stop a corrupt regime from totally and utterly annihilating their means of living
Mm.
without the use of weapons.
Yeah, we saw it.
Except for, I guess, fire is a weapon.
Well, yeah. Well, outside of the fact of being able to, because think about it, a lot of people have compared it to knives, right? Somebody going out there and
Mm,
stabbing. Well, I can go out there if I had a fully automatic and there's 100 people out there and I had 100 rounds and let's say my shot was superb, I could use that gun and
mm-hmm,
kill 100 people versus I would have to go up to each individual with a knife. It makes the killing a
mm-hmm.
lot more difficult. So,
Right. But it's still very possible. And the thing I think people are forgetting is that these tools, the knife and the gun, and let's even use a different projectile, an arrow,
mm,
and a bow and arrow, the oldest known projectile weapon that we have in our society. All of these weapons are meant to do one thing, to kill. And so the means to kill is still the same. And yet, because the gun is a weapon that is constantly ever evolving, ever getting better at killing, there needs to be a stop of
mm,
where does that line stop? Because even with the bow and arrow, we've gotten it to a point where the composite bow and arrow is a very deadly weapon, but you can only use it. I think like the most skilled marksman can probably shoot 3 arrows in a minute.
mm. Yeah, really
Whereas a gun
fast.
can shoot 50 rounds in less than 50 seconds.
So, if memory serves me correct, I believe at one point in time when the crossbow was developed, that they
Mm-hmm.
had come out and said, "Hey, we can't use this. It's unfair because you're able to do a lot of damage with this thing." That's also something that people can probably research. But I could have sworn that I saw it
Mm-hmm.
somewhere where that was a weapon that was used in war, and sides had came out and said, that's kind of unfair. And then speaking on what you had said about making the gun more useful or getting past that point, is we developed bombs. We said we don't even want to shoot you
Yeah.
anymore. We want to create a bomb. And then, being that America is the only country on the planet that has dropped 2 nuclear bombs on a society. So
Mm-hmm.
again, it's almost like it's just woven into the fabric of America's long and bloody history. Because
Yeah.
yeah, who else has done that?
I mean, yeah. It's just, if anything, it supports the fact that if you are a American, Like if you were born and raised here as a third or fourth generation American, because technically America has only been, around for what is it, 280 years now?
Mm.
That's only three generations of humans. So
Well,
that means when your great grandfather came over here
yeah.
and then he had kids and then they had kids and then you were born. That's only three generations. In three generations, we've created a society that is basically saying, blow them up.
Hmm. So, the United States of
And
America has been a country for over 249 years. You know what's funny about that is a lot of people's cases, what you had just said, is my grandfather on my dad's side was actually born in 1899. Not even great, just my grandfather.
right.
So, mine is a weird.
Mm.
Hmm. 249 years is not very long.
No, it is not. Like I said, it's barely even a civilization at that point because,
That's
like,
crazy.
you have places like China who's literally been around for almost what? Again, that's another thing to look up. I think they've been around like 4,000 years. They've been around long before America was established. They've been around long before England was established,
Okay, so
long before Rome.
China as a unified nation state is relatively modern, with People's Republic of China being founded in 1949. However,
Mhm.
China boasts one of the world's longest continuous civilizations with a history spanning over 4,000 years.
Yeah. So when you have those two comparisons, you have a civilization that's been around for 4,000 years versus a civilization that's barely been up and running for 250.
Yeah.
And in
Hmm.
250 years, our civilization has basically said, anyone who comes in here that doesn't look like us, we're going to blow them up.
Yeah.
And anyone who doesn't look like us and believes that we should blow them up, we blow them up.
Yeah, exactly. Meet it
We
with
send them
violence.
away. We meet
Um,
them with violence.
Great
Whereas
Britain.
I think,
No, go ahead.
mhm, I was going to say, whereas you have China, the 4,000 year dynasty, who had a history of violence too. Don't get me wrong; they gone through their rounds as well, but they have this culture of if it harms one of us, it harms all of us.
Yeah, because it's a country of those people looking like each other versus America being a giant melting pot of different cultures.
Right. And we could be, and I mean this with all sincerity, as America, we can be the beacon to show other countries that are mono raced that we can together be unified as different cultures and different ethnicities.
Another funny thing
But I
about
think because we're so ingrained
mm,
to hate each other before we even come to the melting pot, we are already ingrained to hate each other. That the moment we are set upon each other, we created this culture.
yeah, and a lot of it is based off of Roman existence because looking at our money and a lot of the verbiage and stuff, I do believe Rome was around for about 800 years, and pretty much any land that they went and conquered, they pretty much incorporated them into their society. But it's funny
Right.
that Rome has lasted that long, compared to
Mm.
everything else. And here we are only being around for, not even 300 years as a United States. So
Hmm.
if we're at this point now, there's something drastically wrong.
Yeah. I think I'm not 100% sure on why the issue is the way it is, only based on the confusion that is purposely being put out. And I mean this too.
Mm,
There's a strategic, purposeful confusion going on where it's not only dividing us, but it's keeping us from uniting. And that confusion and verbiage is on purpose.
oh, the machine
And
is at full display right now.
yeah, and I don't think people who want to do anything, they purposely add to fuel to that machine. They're just like, oh, well, the guns are the problem, or oh, well, they can't take our guns, it's our human rights. That's exactly what the machine wants you to do. It wants you to divide against each other based on this one situation that has been going on for centuries.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah, I mean, you
as
can
long as
even
guns have been around, they have been killing each other since.
yeah.
And I don't think it has anything to really do with guns. I just think that was just the main tool of, use until bombs were in.
Yeah, human nature has been to kill each other. I was gonna say even with the I'm sorry, the current events where people were going out there and trying to figure out who did what, and then to have HBCUs get threatened, which again, that's more separation. Where I feel that there's been so much damage done in this country where a lot of people do not want unity at all. They just want to separate and segregate. But if we're all going to be American, that's another thing that I feel needs to be worked on, because that also helps with gun control. If you're not looking at somebody else that's in this country that you hate them so much that you're going to go and kill them, and then you use the weapon that is making that easy to do, which is the gun.
Right.
Because me, I look at it like this. Why would I want to off my own people, which is American? But also at the same time, we put each other in different boxes. Well, I'm Black American. Well, you're white American. They're Mexican American. When you look at other countries, I'm British. I mean, they probably don't say that. Maybe they say something different, but like if you're in China.
Yeah, they say, I'm British.
Yeah, I'm
British. And then depending on what location you're in.
Yeah, I'm from Wales, so on and so forth. But I mean, I guess that's a bad example on my end. But basically what I'm getting at is I feel that a lot of people, when they have an aggression in a different country, they're not separating themselves from the fact of, oh, I'm just Black versus white or Latino and so on and so forth, when literally those people were born here. They're American,
Right. Or, there was this excellent skit, and I'm not sure exactly where it was made. I think it was made on YouTube, but I saw it on TikTok, but it was one of those multi-part TikToks. So it's definitely a skit that was probably made for YouTube. And it showed a white guy in a Mexican restaurant. And I'm talking about your classic white guy, blonde hair, glasses, blue eyes, classic. And he was telling this person, hey, I'm a Mexican and I have now opened my own Mexican restaurant. I am so proud of myself. And the patron was like, how could you say that? You're not Mexican. And he literally then starts speaking in fluent Latino to his chef and says, can you believe this woman? She just told me I'm not Mexican. Well, I live in Mexico and my grandmother is a born native Mexican.
People don't know what nationality, versus. See, now I'm having a brain fart, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
Yeah. Like if if I look like this and I was born in Japan, I would be Japanese. They're
well,
like,
you would be Japanese, and the Japanese citizen though would not, initially, because I think it's just the bias, right? We have these biases. We have these innate stereotypes and biases. And if a Japanese person gave birth to somebody of a dark skin ethnicity, they'd be questioning it. They'd be like, well, they're technically Japanese, but what are we going to do with that? And they would still treat you as a Japanese citizen, but there would be a difference. They there's cultural evidence of this.
Yeah. And what I was trying to say was
people who don't look like a certain group.
It was ethnicity versus nationality is what I was trying to get at.
Right. Yeah.
Because, your ethnicity is different than nationality, obviously.
Right. And then the skit continues, and you have two people who, one looks like a descendant of the African continent, and you have a descendant who looks like of the Asian continent, and they're both Mexican. Because their grandparents were Mexican.
Yeah.
And then they were migrant workers, is what happened. And so the migrant workers came over to Mexico and they met their grandparents, right? And then they had kids.
And then so on and so forth.
And so on and so forth. They're still all Mexican.
And that's where it is.
Because we are so,
Yeah, it's the whole divide thing. Because if we actually were united, then I don't think that the situation would be nearly as hard to try to understand. Because a lot of us would be on the same page, but we're all fighting individual battles, trying to achieve something for the masses, when the masses aren't united and they're not sitting down and saying, hey, we need to put our differences aside so that way we can combat this.
Yeah. I think that the biggest and most obvious divide that people don't want to address, especially when it comes to guns, is the wealth inequality.
Yeah.
Because I could tell you right now, every rich bitch out there has a gun. Every rich bitch has one, and I don't care if you say, "Oh no, I'm not." Don't get me started. Old money has guns.
Well, now I gotta ask the question: why does every rich bitch have a gun? Because they're cute? They're an
Exactly.
accessory? What? Why? Is that a fact? What is that?
I don't know. It's just one of those things that it's just innate. I think that if you are a rich person, you have not only the ability to have a gun, you do probably have the ability to buy bombs and sell them to foreign countries that want bombs.
Mm.
They have access to bigger, nastier weapons than we ever will. But the biggest, nastiest weapon they have isn't their guns, it's their money.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I was watching some
And so,
YouTube videos on a guy that had a fully autos, and I was just like, wow. Like, how did you get that? Like, I know that's a lot of money because I was looking at AK-47s, and to get a
mhm,
fully automatic AK-47, the one that I was looking at is like, it was just $20,000 for the gun itself, not
mhm,
counting all the other things that you have to do to
mhm.
even get it. We're at we got 10 minutes left, so I don't know if you want to wrap it up, but it's telling me that we have 10 minutes. I
Um,
think we're probably at a full hour mark almost for the complete.
yeah, we probably are.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess in conclusion to the ideas of guns and what our current society is, I think you nailed it on the head when you said that our biggest problem is we're not looking at each other as Americans. And so
Yes.
we immediately go to our immediate solution to who is an American. If you're not an American, you get bombed.
Yeah.
That's basically
So
how it is.
I came to that
And we need to
conclusion.
stop.
I came to that conclusion because of
Mhm.
them coming out and saying that they wanted to take transgenders' guns. And the NRA said you can't take Americans'
Mhm.
guns. And I don't think people put them in the same category as being American because guess what? Those people that you think and feel are crazy are American. And they literally put them in a
Right.
box and said that, well,
Mhm.
we got to take their guns. And then the NRA said, well, you can't take Americans' guns. What do you mean, Americans? Yeah, those people that you're talking about that you don't like, they're American. And like, oh,
Right.
fuck. Just like the
Exactly.
Negroes
And I
and their Black Panthers.
it's
So,
it's just that's the thing right there. If we really want a true solution to our gun violent epidemic, we need to stop and look at the person we're pointing the gun at and say, you're an American,
yes.
not you're white, you're black, you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, you're a trans, you're a cis. No, you're an American.
Yep.
And I think that's what will finally stop. But we
And
have to finally get to that mindset. And I
yeah,
don't think we're there yet.
no, we're way far from it. And I will say this, and I guess we'll end it. But I remember watching people that are around my age come out and say, "Well, we never really had this race problem growing up, and I don't know what changed." And I'm just like, in my brain, I'm like, "What the fuck are they talking? Where'd you grow up at?" Because I literally had
Right?
those things, but the difference is a lot of us didn't go out there and fight it because we were either afraid or we didn't know how to approach those things. Just like, why is it that back then we could say all these horrible jokes, but now we can't? It's because not you, but those people were
Yeah,
doing those
I get you.
things, and
Universal
they
you.
yeah, and they thought that it was okay because those people didn't speak out on how it made them feel. So therefore, they were going on like, "Oh, it's fine, it's okay," and everybody's laughing when it wasn't everybody laughing. It was you laughing and us laughing out of uncomfortability.
Right, definitely.
The conclusion of Rage Bait, where living is a privilege, special episode, men love their guns more than women. Special thanks to Sensei for being the co-host of this special episode. Thank you for Dead Nexus for bringing us the excellent music. And as always, stay tuned.